Hello and welcome to the GBC Productions channel. This is episode 46. In this video, we're going to test the vacuum tubes on this old HP 200 CD oscillator. We'll also take a look around inside while we're there. Let's take a quick walk around the outside first. This will adjust the frequency. Plastic knob's a little loose. Here's the range switch. This is kind of a fine-tuning knob. The rubber is all worn out, so it doesn't work too well anymore. And then this one adjusts the amplitude. Hooking up to the output gives you a few options. A BNC connector, banana plugs, and then you can unscrew them and hook up bare wire. It's labeled as 600 ohms for the banana plugs. And then of course the power switch. On the back there's nothing really except for the power cord and a fuse. So let's get inside and take a look around before we test these tubes. Now, a couple of the tubes in here were tested not too long ago by my niece and nephew. Once we get inside, I'll show you which ones they tested. Let me move this into the frame. Here's this giant variable capacitor. As I rotate the knob, you can kind of see the plates moving. Let me readjust the camera and get a better view. Okay, here we go. Now back to this view. These are the two tubes that my niece and nephew tested. They are 6AU6. And then of course the two light bulbs in here. Here's a view of the back of the range switch. And it's actually a stack of many switches, and there's a long shaft. It's actually divided into 6 different boards here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And check out this old domino capacitor. Here's some various adjustments inside. Kind of neat how every adjustment on here is labeled. So let's go around to the other side here, and we have a few tubes over here. A couple of 6CW5s, at least that's what it's labeled as. So we'll just remove the shield. And then carefully wiggle the tube out. With both of these out, I'm going to set this aside and I'm going to go get the tube tester. Okay, so here is my tube tester. I've had this thing since the mid-90s. In order to configure this to test tubes, there's a little book here that tells you how to set it up. So I'm going to look up this tube and set this thing up. Now I'm going to try to read it directly off the tube. I just noticed on one of these tubes it actually says Hewlett-Packard on it. I'm wondering if this is possibly an original tube. I'm going with the 6CW5, because that is what is listed on the other tube, and they are both the same tube. Alright, I found the listing for the tube right here. We're going to zoom in a little bit. So there's the 6CW5, and there's all the settings. So from left to right, it'll be A, B, C, D, and socket for the different columns. So we'll start with A, which are these red switches. 1, 6, and 8. Now we go to column B, which is filament voltage of 6. Now we set the load, and then D, and then it tells me to put it into socket 3. Let's start with this HP tube. I'm going to turn this on to emission so I can see when the tube warms up. And as the tube starts warming up, we should see that needle move to the right. And it's starting to warm up. Alright, well, it says emissions are good. Now we're going to switch to grid leakage, and we should see the needle go back to the left. So for emissions, I'm reading the top scale, and for grid leakage, I'm going to read the lower scale. And that looks good. Now we're going to go to shorts. And that looks good too. Now we're going to do a life test. We put it back to emissions, and I'll switch this switch over. And we should see the needle go just a little bit to the left. And here it goes, it's dropping quite a bit. So this tube tests mostly okay, except for the life test. It's still functioning for now. I'm going to leave it in, but I will probably be tracking down a tube very soon. So let's go on to the next tube. Now here's the other tube. And I'll set it to emissions and we'll watch it warm up. We can see the filament starting to glow in there. And it's warming up. Now emissions check good. We'll go to grid leakage. Good. Shorts. Good. Now we'll do the life test on this one. Now this needle moved just a little bit, but barely, not like the other tube. Yeah, this tube is strong. This one is really good. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and zero this out, and we're going to look at a different tube. So I'm going to put these two tubes back in, and I'm going to note which one is the good one and which is the bad one. So I'm going to put this in position V4, and I'll put the one on its way out into V2. So I'm going to pause for a moment and grab the other tube, and I will be right back. Okay, so our next tube is a 5AR4 rectifier tube. So now just looking at my chart here, I gotta do 1. And then we'll set filament voltage to 5. Leave this at A for load. Setup is 6. And then we go to socket 1. Now there are some interesting notes here. So here you can see it says normal short 8 HK. Alright, so I'm going to set this to emissions here, and we'll wait for the tube to warm up. There was a step I forgot to do on the other two tubes. What I forgot to do was rotate this knob all the way through its different settings. And this tube's warming up. Okay, emissions are good. We'll go to grid leakage. That looks good. Now we'll go to shorts, and that looks good. So now we'll set this all the way to 1, and we'll just go through each one. And the footnote says that it's normal if it shows a short at 8, like that. And supposedly also at HK. So this tube's checking out okay. Now we'll go back to emissions and do the life test. So this tube's in really good shape. So I missed that step in the other two tubes, but I will test them again off camera. Don't forget to subscribe for more, mash that like button, and comment below. Until next time, this is Uncle D from GBC Productions, signing off.